Brothers, sisters, it's no secret to my family and friends that I've been kind of down in the dumps the last couple days. I've suffered a little bit of heartbreak, and I do not believe it is because of my actions, but there is a piece of advice that my friend echoed to me that I had said in the past and have said many times, along with some other things that really helped me. My friend Joseph said, for instance, that you can't have too high expectations of people. What you want from them, what you expect them to be, is not what they are, and you must not have these expectations because you're just going to get hurt. And we have to accept people as they are and not as we want them to be. It wasn't exactly those words, but it was along those lines. And this is something that I've said in the past many times. And I looked within and I realized that I need to practice what I preach in this case, because I've seen throughout my life, I've learned this lesson again and again, and usually I can apply what I've learned from this lesson. This last time, today, yesterday, and day before, were incredibly difficult because I felt I couldn't apply it to this particular person and this particular situation. But this is just the kind of thing that I need to apply it to. Also, I think it was a historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, that said, if you are hurt, if somebody hurts you, it is because you can be hurt, because you are hurtable in a way. And this basically means that you must come at the world from a stance of self-power, self-empowerment, self-understanding, to the extent that you're not insecure when somebody does something that would harm your character and the view of yourself within, and would affect the peace in your life. If that peace can be disturbed, it is not great peace. If your security can be disturbed, it is not great security. And we need to take this into account. We need to learn from our mistakes, learn from the times that we get hurt, to strengthen ourselves for the future. There is always an opportunity in every circumstance, and this is the hope that I'm talking about today. This video is called Short Message of Hope. And this is really the short message, that everything that happens to us in our life is a repercussion of us living in a world where free choice exists, where we're all trying to work together in a society and with each other in relationships. And there's a lot of conflict between different societies, but also mainly between different peoples. Bring it down to the individual level, between two people. There are a number of conflicts, emotional, spiritual, mental, ideological, that can be resolved by greater security and greater strength on an individual level. Two extremely peaceful or secure people that are secure themselves will not fight. They will try to understand each other, and then there are very few cases where two very peaceful people fight because they can't come to terms. Sometimes they're pushed into it because they happen to be in two different societies that are kind of pushing them into acting a certain way, but it's very rare. The stance of a human being is incredibly remarkable on this planet. We are the dominant species, of course, but we do not often think about being dominant within ourselves. We have these ideas that are ingrained into our memory, these experiences. We have these ideas of what it is to be human, and we have all the influences that tell us what the fabric of reality is, the ones that we've accepted, the different influences we've accepted as our own, consciously or subconsciously. And there is not enough talk of being dominant within yourself. We may be the dominant species. Hell, your country may be the dominant military power in the world. But if individuals in a society cannot be dominant within themselves and not be ruled by the influences of others in their mind, the lack of ability to really interpret the world, if we are hindered by our emotions in the negative, if we are hindered by what we think is the code that creation is under, whether it be from a particular book or whether it be called Dharma or this and that. If we allow our conception of all these things to hinder our growth, then those are boundaries that need to be better understood. Now, a rule is a rule if it allows you to exist in a peaceful state within and without. There are certain rules in society that are unjust, and there are certain freedoms that we give up as individuals for the greater good, for the greater security, the social contract, in other words. Basically, I give up this amount of taxes in order to have access to a certain level of protection in regards to what regulations regarding food, streets, postal service, public education for the greater good. Giving up that piece of taxes that I made through my own work is put towards, or at least the idea is that it's put towards the greater security and the greater protection, the greater progress of everybody in this society. There are certain freedoms like that we give up. There are certain freedoms like, okay, I'm not allowed to kill anybody else, and in turn, nobody else is allowed to kill me, or murder, in essence. But generally, but without going into the fabric of society itself, generally, a lot of these rules provide a peaceful state. I mean, they provide a sense and a reality of security that, when we get deep into it, you can argue if it really exists. But we must realize that the rules that we have within for ourselves and the restrictions on our own thought, the restriction and not even hurting anybody else, not even trying to influence other people, but the restrictions that we have within, we must analyze very closely, because many of the restrictions and rules that we have as a person are embedded with fear and desire. We think, okay, well, if somebody insults me, I'm going to insult them back. That's very much linked to fear. Fear of security, wanting to be secure as an individual in society, when instead you can brush it off and have a much more peaceful mind, a very well-groomed mind, personally well-groomed, personally well-regulated. And that's just in that instance. For instance, if somebody punches me, I'm going to hit them back. I mean, that's obviously perfectly fine if it's in self-defense, but how about you try to restrain the person and cause the least amount of damage possible? We must truly understand ourselves and break down why we believe what we believe, and what is the reason that people can emotionally, spiritually, mentally harm us, and why do we keep on getting harmed if that is indeed the case. We must analyze our mind, analyze the reality we have created in our head, because it's never the exact picture of reality. It's never the absolute truth of reality. And the more we do this, the more we meditate upon ourselves and our connection to everything else, we start to gain a greater peace and security that will allow us to not be hurt within ourselves, even if somebody hurts us without, let's say. I'm not saying you shouldn't defend yourself, but if somebody can emotionally hurt you, then you might want to analyze your situation and try to get into a state of mind where you cannot be emotionally hurt. And it's a process. I'm not there, and most people, the vast majority of people on this planet, are not there. But we must work towards that. All right, this has been a short message of hope, that the fact that we can all work towards and use the circumstances we find ourselves in, the situations that we find ourselves in that affect us greatly, we can use those to increase our greater inner security and greater peace, so that these situations will be handled far better in the future by us, and maybe we can even show others ways that they can understand themselves, so that they can move on and become a more peaceful person within. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I haven't produced a video in the last 3 days. I've been slowing down with the videos. I've been analyzing myself more, and I've been trying to really understand my own process. And I have to understand myself before I can put too much more out. I'm growing. It's a hard process. It always is for us humans, but I'm getting there. So, hey, thank you very much, and please continue to watch. Hit that thumbs up down there if you like this video at all, or if you thought it was interesting. If you want to subscribe to me on Patreon, I greatly appreciate it. I really need more patrons at www.patreon.com/darkrealist, capital D, capital R, and I will see you there.